Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and to welcome you to the Prosperos Sunday meeting for February 10th, 2019. My name is Janet Cornwell, and I've been with the Prosperos since about 1980. So before introducing today's speaker, let me say a few words about this unique school. The Prosperos School of Ontology, which is the study of being, was founded by Thane of Hawaii in 1956. Its mission statement was and is to make spiritual truth an effective force for ordered freedom and common good. Through our talks, classes, workshops, and study groups, we offer tools that blend science and spirit to help us reveal our spiritual truth in order to manifest that freedom and good. One of the features I remember best about my early days with the school was the Sunday meetings, where we heard some of the best speakers in the group remind us in their unique ways that we really are manifestations of universal being and consciousness, and we should settle for nothing less than the truth of this identity. Our talk this morning continues this tradition of inspirational presentations open to both our students and to the public. So again, welcome to you all. Now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Heather Williams is a high watch mentor with the Prosperos. When I first met her years ago, she was apprenticed to an artist and diligently learning her trade, because yes, she is an artist herself. Heather is also author of a book titled Drawing as a Sacred Activity. Recently, she retired from 18 years teaching art and special education with the Vista Unified School District. Recently, she has also been teaching drawing classes in North San Diego County, but she'll be moving to Wisconsin in the near future. Heather, please don't freeze. We need you to continue teaching. As a working artist and a teacher, Heather is especially keen to discuss her favorite topic, creativity. Today's talk is one of a series she has developed to consider the discovery and application of creativity in all aspects of our lives. Toward the end of her talk today, I'll bet she'll guide us in an imaginative drawing exercise, so have a paper and pencil handy. First, take just a second to breathe and relax and center. Now, it is my pleasure to turn the meeting over to our featured speaker, Heather Williams.
Okay. Well, happy Valentine's Day. This is February 10th, and Valentine's Day is coming, so I wish from my heart to your heart, happy Valentine's Day. Yes. And my Sunday meetings, I'm learning a lot in giving them every month. So I'll tell you, anybody listening to this here today or on the recordings on YouTube, just take this in how important practice is. It definitely is essential. So here's what I'm learning. That I want to have every time, every Sunday, I'm going to have a story. I'm going to have a poem. I'm going to have a drawing exercise. I'm going to share some drawings. These are always going to be part of my Sunday meetings to get across to you what I'm trying to get across and connect with you about the powers that are within you and how to draw them out. Now, all my talks focus on creativity, and to be creative, I don't care what you're talking about, you know, singing, dancing, drawing, writing a poem. You must be curious about who you are, how you feel about this or that, what you're thinking about. You have to be curious about how you want to express yourself. So this month, the question is, are you curious? And do you have the courage to be curious? So that brings us to the first slide. And here we have a drawing that I did way back in '93. And I used Prismacolor pencils. It's the terracotta reddish color, and it's the white on a Reeves paper gray kind of cream colored background. So this model was standing there, and it was probably 20 minutes, but I'm choosing this particular drawing. I want you to look at the woman in this drawing. And I'll say this, because sometimes you talk about, I'm going to capture this whatever on the paper. And I'm going to talk more about that human beings, when you get creative, you are channeling something, not capturing and blasting it on your paper. That's more of the hunter-gatherer mindset from the old school. But creativity today is you are opening yourself up to channel. So here's a drawing I did that I channeled, in a sense, what I saw, this woman standing, and she was a wonderful model. And I just want you looking at her. She looks like she's asking a question, doesn't she? She is, to me, saying something maybe along the lines of, what are you doing here? or who are you? I don't know. That's what I get from looking at her. So I would like at this moment for you to look at her eyes, look at her hands, and what do you think she's asking? Just share. Unmute yourselves and just share whatever blurts out of your mouth. What do you think she is curious about?
Well, what I think she's sort of looking like, what are you looking at? You know, because she's kind of doesn't have very many clothes on. So it's like, hey,
Exactly.
what are you looking at?
Exactly.
How about what do you want me to do?
Yeah, right. Maybe what do you want me to do? Good. What do
What do
you
you think?
Yeah, what do you think? Good. Kathy, what do you think?
She kind of is saying, do you want to look into my soul a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Go a
Cool.
little deeper.
Go a little deeper. I love that. Thomas, good to see you, Thomas. What do you think? You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, she is looking, definitely.
Yeah, she's looking and
She's questioning.
she's what?
She's questioning.
She is
She is
questioning.
questioning.
What? So anyways, it's being curious is stimulating. It connects you with something, lifts you out of your ordinary thoughts.
What
Yeah.
I get, Heather, is she's saying, can I trust you?
Oh, that's fabulous. I love that. Thank you, Richard. I love that. That's a good question. Yeah, really. Okay, so be curious is the key to realization, to opening up, to realize something. So creativity is really, really, hey, by the way, the word curious, I looked it up in the dictionary, like I do a lot of words because in the Prosperos, we have a tool called translation where you translate what your senses are telling you. And I'll tell you, looking up in the dictionary a word is really helpful. Here's what the word curious comes from. It comes from the Latin word cura, cura, I guess. You know what it means? It means to care. And care comes from a Germanic origin, chara. It means grief or lament. So it's something where you pay attention, you're trying to provide your attention, provide something needed for somebody that might be suffering, and you are curious, what happened to you? So that's interesting. I never thought it would go to that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so my thought was in our typical way of dealing with a problem. I'm speaking generally about all of us. We have a problem, maybe the typical thing is, and I'm not saying that's what we all do, but there are moments where it's typical to just complain about a problem, point a finger at the problem, blame somebody, and just basically look away, not deal with it. It's kind of a feeling of being powerless. Now, that to me is the old skin, the old humanity. The new skin is going to be something where your response to a problem is having curiosity, asking, what can I learn from this? Or what's going on? How did this happen? It is a connecting of you with the problem or something deeper. How did you get here? You know? So we must realize that we all are conditioned to believe that the world around us out there is separate and apart from us. And this is not the truth. Just not true. But evidence of this is where I work in my drawing classes. When we grow up, we learn to name things. And I'll put my hand here. This is a hand. And then I've got a pen, and I'll put this is a pen, and this is a chair. So we have names for things. Now, language and words are really wonderful, and they are tremendously helpful for us. However, you cannot draw P-E-N, pen. You've got to draw this. You can't draw H-A-N-D. You've got to draw this. And that drawing is where you have to use a different part of your brain. Maybe it's a different mindset. Now, to me, naming a thing puts you apart from it. It's over there. There it is. Drawing is the beginning of a way to connect yourself with what you're seeing. We are going to do a little drawing exercise like Janet said. So make sure you have your pen and pencil. We're not there yet, but we will be. So our next one is another drawing with I got this glass Chinese ink pen. I saw somebody using something like that, and I went online and I Googled the glass Chinese pen, and I got it for $12. I love this pen. Well, anyway. One day at the figure drawing workshop, we have this guy maybe he's an actor, but anyway, he's a good model, and he did his 2-minute poses, and then he went quickly into this 5-minute pose. And he slumped right over into this wonderful pose. To me, it's a pose of a person that's humiliated, or disillusioned, or disappointed, or something really sad. And I started to work with the idea of being disillusioned, and I am finding that whenever we are disillusioned, disappointed, humiliated in some way, that is what you need to be curious. It makes you ready to open up to some of the deeper work that we all need to do. It's a door opener, being disillusioned. For example, let's just talk about the world today. We have the president and the Congress, and I'm concerned about the climate. I'm concerned about plastic in the ocean. I'm concerned about too much money involved in politics. I don't know. I'm sure you're probably got your own concerns about the world today. And I would say it's probably safe to say that you are probably a little bit concerned and maybe even disillusioned about some of the political process. Therefore, our disillusionment is a wake-up call. Now, in the San Diego Union Tribune is the daily paper here in San Diego County. And on the front page of the paper the other day, front page was an article about this history professor at San Diego State, at the University of California, San Diego. He's a history professor. He wrote a new book. It's called Mortal Republic. And what he does in this book, I'd highly recommend it. I haven't gotten it myself, but from this article, it sounds excellent. He is comparing ancient Rome and what happened to ancient Rome with America today. And he has 5 things that went on then that destroyed that democracy that are going on today. Those 5 things are rising income inequality, partisan gridlock, erosion of political norms. You know what norms are, where, the leader talks kindly about people and doesn't talk trash about people. Those kinds of norms. And then the loss of faith in public institutions. That was going on in Rome. It's going on today. And angry populist uprisings. So I'd highly recommend that book, Mortal Republic. And here's the lesson he says that we can take away from the Roman example is that a republic, a democracy, does not last unless you protect it. It can and will die unless citizens, that's you and me, ensure that it lives and thrives. It's up to us. That's my thought about today's world, that our feeling of being disillusioned is a wake-up call, and I do feel that's really important. So I want to tell you a little bit about my personal story. Wait, it skipped one there. In 1967, I was 20 years old. I found this picture and I thought, oh, good, I'll put that in there. But I had a big question. And I was, I would say, disillusioned. So here's my situation. 20 years old. You're leaving home. It's a typical thing for all of us. Think back on your time if you're not 20 now. Go back to when you were. Okay, I was leaving home. I was leaving the home I grew up in. My mother had told me things to expect in the world. And she loved me. There's no doubt. But a lot of what she told me to expect in the world, for me, did not turn out to be true. The same thing for my father. He loved me, I know it. But he told me some things that did not turn out to be true for me. Maybe the world has changed, whatever. But it made me question, is there such a thing as truth? Or is it all opinion? Is there such a thing as truth, or is it all opinion? That question really drove me because I could not get an answer. And I even sat in my college classes, sitting there listening to a professor tell me things, and I would ask myself, is he telling me the truth, or is he telling me what he was told? So that good question, is there such a thing as truth, or is it all opinion, I'll tell you what, it led me. It led me. When I graduated from the University of Wisconsin in 1970, and I got into a car with my sister and drove to California, to San Francisco, looking for a teacher because I was reading Gurdjieff. If you've ever heard of Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was a teacher, and he said this. He said, everybody's asleep to who they are. I said, I know I am. I don't really know who I am. I'm not my mother. I'm not my father. I'm not my sister. Well, who am I? I mean, I don't really know. And that question and curiosity led me to the Prosperos School of Ontology. And here I learned to self-observe. I learned and practiced some tools that helped me use my life experience, with paying the rent, getting a job, my life experience with having a relationship and learning how to drive a car, or whatever my life experience, these are tools you use in your own life experience to discover a deeper truth about your identity, who you are. Yes, there is such a thing as truth. It is far deeper than anybody's opinion. Truth is a principle of life that is here now, ever present. You don't have to do anything to get it. It's in you now. It connects everything. Truth is birthless, deathless, undying, and abiding. It's a formless, timeless, spaceless form of energy. Now, what is an opinion? An opinion is a unique point of view. I talk about this in drawing all the time. Say that we're all sitting at a table and we're going to draw a vase of flowers. I sit at this position drawing it. You're at the other end of the table from your position. You're going to see that same bunch of flowers differently from your point of view. This is what I tell my drawing students. Your point of view is unique, and there is no one on this planet. Wait a minute, there's billions of people. Are you serious? Right. There's no one on this planet that looks through your eyes but you. You are unique, and you have a responsibility to be able to see clearly. You need to come to know what forms your point of view. What is that? How do you perceive the world through your eyes and all of your senses? The truth is something different from our opinion and from our point of view. The truth is not limited to my point of view or your point of view. Truth is perceived not with the senses, but with the mind and the heart. So, question is, do you have a big question? Really think about it, because I'll tell you what, it will guide you, this big question. Whatever it is, it will guide you. Now, I just want to talk about this for a little bit. Our human nature is what we were put into the world to rise above. In many ways, we can talk about that. But here's something that I learned from a tape that I'm listening to. Thane Walker was the founder of the Prosperos, and he created a class called the 11th Hour Dispatch. And I'm participating in an online class and listening to that with some others. So this is what I got from one of the lessons. It's called the 3 domains. The area of fact, the area of value, and the area of realization. So facts are what our senses perceive through your ears and eyes and touching and all that. We have our sensory perception, and we have raw potentials. And this is kind of a metaphor, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Wheat in the field, and water in the pail, and salt in the mine. Okay, kind of picture that. These are raw potentials, things in the world. Okay, that's the area of fact. Now, the area of value is going to open up the heart a little bit and open up the mind a little bit. And these are more intangible values that you begin to get a feeling that there's something more you can do with the raw potentials rather than just have the wheat in the field and the water in the pail and the salt in the mine. And so then you start to feel I could do something more. Then you move into, because then you start to desire to do this work of learning who I am and answering your questions about things. The area of realization is the work where you mix together these raw potentials. You've got the wheat and the water and the salt, and that equals dough. Oh man, you might be able to make some bread or something. But yet it is useless unless the yeast, which is your creativity, is added, and heat, which is your love. When you bring all that together, suddenly you've got something that you can realize about yourself at a deeper level. So I think, all of my talks about creativity, and the Prosperos is sponsoring these talks. Every one of my talks, I just have to be honest, is going to be talking about working on ourselves and rising above some of our human nature, some of our conditioning that has us believing we're separate from the world around us. So anyways, just to be honest about that's what we're talking about. And evolving. To evolve is to develop gradually, to mature and unfold. Now, this is Gurdjieff's little story about everybody, all of us. Each of us individually live in the basement of a house. And we're unaware that there are much better rooms upstairs. It is possible for us to gain entry into those upper rooms. But 3 conditions must be met. The first one is realize how you are living now. To me, if you can be curious about any of the problems that you feel you have, instead of complaining, ask the question, what am I learning? What am I supposed to learn from this problem? Why is this happening to me? or just whatever. Just be curious. That's essential. Realize your life and be curious. Number 2, obtain help from someone who knows the way up to those better rooms. Now, I've been working on myself for 48 years, I guess. I can't believe it. And so have a lot of other people in the Prosperos. That's what I've done my work. Prosperos is a wonderful school. It ain't the only one, but it's one that offers, there are mentors in the Prosperos who can be helpful to people who are curious. So number 2, obtain help from someone who knows the way. I remember Gurdjieff in his book saying, you're all asleep, but then he also said, you need a teacher to help you, but be aware that there's a lot of people that would love to say they can help you. They'll take your money happily, but they can't really help you. So I wanted to be careful. I found somebody that could help me, and I do feel Thane helped me greatly. Okay, number 3. Be prepared to make effort and leave your comfort zone. That's probably pretty huge. So this is a quotation from Thane. As we are evolving, confidence in your old self is lost just before you accept your new self. You know, in the process of your own personal growth, you reach places where you feel things aren't working out and you lose confidence in yourself. But that's normal, to lose confidence in your old self just before you're ready to accept your new self. And instead of trying to build up confidence in the old self, and that would be affirmations, I've got everything I need right now, and all that, affirming that you've got. Instead of trying to build up confidence in the old self, be willing to plow under that separate partial self and be planted with the seeds of your far greater essential self. That is where you want to be planted, with your greater essential self. So I think we're ready to draw. Are you ready? So I want you to take a moment to contemplate your life right now. We're just going to take a little moment and step out of the lecture and step into contemplating your own life. And we're going to kind of look at a place in our life where we feel a little disillusioned about something, and just have some courage to be curious about it. So get your pen and paper out. You will now do the most natural thing in your world, exploring your world and drawing out genuine feelings from your heart. I do tell people, use your non-dominant hand or use your dominant hand. We say a little bit about the hands. When you do this exercise, or any exercise, it sometimes will feel like one hand gets a little tighter or a little nervous or a little tired. You can put the pen in the other hand. Lucia Capiccioni has written a number of books about accessing your own inner wisdom with drawing or writing with the non-dominant hand. I do think it's valuable to use the non-dominant hand, but any hand is fine. So let's sit down, close our eyes, not to sleep or not to rest even, but to understand. The answer is within us. Now on your piece of paper, you're going to open your eyes, pick up your pencil, and draw on your paper, and right in the middle of the paper, draw a vertical line down the middle of the paper. Now, on the top left side of the vertical line, on the top left side, right where I feel disillusioned, or just disillusioned would be okay. And then feel this situation where you feel disillusioned. Think of it. Kind of bring your mind to remember it, to feel it. How do you feel about this? And you're going to use your pencil, and it helps to use your non-dominant hand to just draw lines. It can be squiggles, it can be just draw lines, shapes, marks that express this feeling of being disillusioned for you. You don't have to share these drawings. It's just for you to get it out of you, put it on the paper where you feel disillusioned, disappointed, maybe sad. And you might write, if you want to, write little words about what is it that you're feeling disillusioned about, just a few words. Now on the other side of this paper, on the right side of the vertical line, write these words: learning, curious, love. And think of, what's your question? What are you curious about? What are you here to learn from this? And what would love do here? So on the right side, you're going to use your pen or pencil to draw some kind of lines, shapes, marks that express what you're here to learn, what love would do here with this situation. And then some point, maybe put a little title at the top of what this little drawing can mean to you. Just a little title. Okay, so I'm going to play a little song right now. Now, I did this on YouTube, and let's see if I can play this song. It's called I Am the River. Here we go. You are the river, I am the flow.
Do not complain, your gifts are so many. You have breath and sight and life all around. Don't let yourself worry or dwell on what's missing, for all that you need already abounds. And I hold you like sunshine and bright colored flowers. I'm one with you always, never let go. Wherever you journey, I journey beside you, for you flow. There's food for the hungry. You need only to share it. All truth is revealed. You need only to see. Each soul I've created contains all the heavens. I'm here in your midst. Look around you, that's me. And I hold you like sunshine and bright colored flowers. I'm one with you always. Never let go. Wherever you journey, I journey beside you. For you are the river, I am the flow. Others may tell you your sins keep us separate. They'll speak of the miles between heaven and earth. But I tell you, my child, there's no distance between us. I'm the light of your fire. You're the sound of my breath. And I hold you like sunshine and bright colored flowers. I'm one with you always. Never let go. Wherever you journey, I journey beside you. For you are the river. You are the river. I am the flow.
Now for our little story. Where is it? Oops. Oh no, I'm going to keep that. That's right. Okay. Here's the story about the courage to free ourselves from our comfort zones. Once upon a time, there was a king, and he went off and visited the other kingdoms, and he was gifted with a pair of beautiful macaw parrots. And he came home back to his kingdom with these two parrots, called a bird trainer and said, help train these macaw birds. And he had a place for them in his garden. He'd look at them from his palace window. And time passed, and the king noticed that one of these birds is flying up in the sky fabulously, but where's the other bird? And the trainers came and said, we tried our best, but we can't get this one parrot. So these trainers tried their best to get this bird to fly, but they couldn't. And so the king was thinking, well, maybe I ought to get, somebody like an old farmer that really, really knows the countryside. So he had a farmer come and look at the situation. And the farmer went out there and spent some time with them. And all of a sudden, a couple days later, I guess, the king noticed both birds are flying like crazy. And he called that farmer and said, come here, what in the heck? How did you make that parrot fly? The parrot had been sitting on the branch and not moving. And the farmer stood there with his hands folded. He said, it was very easy, Your Majesty. I simply cut the branch where the parrot was sitting. So the moral of the story is we are all gifted with energy to find success in our life. And we fail to gather the courage which is required to reach the heights of success. We end up clinging to the things that are familiar to us. We need to free ourselves from our comfort zone to explore new opportunities and to find success beyond our capacity. We can do this. So, you want to explore more? I have free drawing exercises on my website. You can contact me by email. Explore the Prosperos. We have free talks by Thane of Hawaii on the prosperos.org. There's a whole bunch of them. In fact, I coming up, I think it's March 3rd, the first Sunday in March, I'm going to play one of Thane's talks on the Sunday meeting. I'll let you guys know. I think you would very much like to hear him and one of these talks. So they're available to you. You can do it on your own, but I'm going to use it for a Sunday meeting. Now, this is the link to all of our Sunday meetings. And of course, March 10th will be my next Sunday meeting. And I'd like to close with a little poem by Mary Oliver, a wonderful poet who recently died at age 83. So here's her poem about courage. Who can guess the luna's sadness, I guess that's the moon, who lives so briefly? Who can guess the impatience of stone, longing to be ground down, to be part again of something livelier? Who can imagine in what heaviness the rivers remember their original clarity and clean water? Strange questions, yet I have spent worthwhile time with them, and I suggest them to you also, that your spirit grow in curiosity, that your life be richer than it is, that you bow to the earth as you feel how it actually is, that we, so clever and ambitious and selfish and unrestrained, are only one design of the moving, the vivacious many. So thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity to develop myself as a speaker and opportunity to be heard. And your thoughts are welcome. If anybody wants to share any thoughts about today's talk, you can unmute yourself and share a thought or two. You don't have to. It's just coming to the close. And I don't know, Janet, do you want to say anything as a closing? Is there something that the introducer does at the ending? Okay, guys. Anybody want to share something?
Yeah, this is Richard. I'm rarely at a loss for words. So, Heather, I just first of all want to comment on, as a public speaker, observing your growth and your use of the Sunday meeting as a way of improving. I think you're making tremendous progress. I hope you don't mind me saying that to you, but I just think the quality of your talks is just steadily increased. Yeah. There's a lot to be said for practice, isn't there, Heather?
Oh my gosh, you can't talk about it enough.
Yeah. The other thing I found really fascinating today was that I don't know why this happened exactly, but boy, there was some stuff that you brought up today that's exactly where I'm at, and really just touched me personally and gave me some interesting things to think about. So I'm very grateful for the fact that you drew my attention back to some things that I was trying very hard to not look at. So great talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Heather, I certainly enjoyed this talk too, and applaud your growth here, because this really was a wonderful talk in the information that was shared. That I think that this one touched a lot of people, and also gave me information to think over, regurgitate, and be curious about.
Good, excellent. Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
If nobody else has anything, I will do the introducer's outro here.
Okay, good.
So first of all, I'd like to thank Heather for giving us some insights into recognizing our true self and encouraging our own creativity. And thank everyone for joining us and for sharing. Before we sign off, again, I'd like to mention the next Sunday meeting, which will be next Sunday, which is February 17th, actually.
Oh.
And that will be with Hugh John Mulanaphy as the featured speaker. So please join us again then. But for now, let's leave with the Hawaiian word that means hello, goodbye, and above all, love. Aloha.
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 Aloha.